I live unbanked off of cryptocurrency, and I use Bitrefill extensively because it lets me pay with crypto at places that don't yet accept it directly. This one service, more than any other, helps me live on crypto, pay your prepaid phone bill, or buy gift cards to thousands of major retailers around the world, all with cryptocurrency, including for exact amounts so you don't have to buy more gift credit than you need for a specific purchase. You can use Bitrefill without an account, but if you get an account, you can earn rewards points, which translate to savings, and you can also hold a balance denominated in dollars or euros to protect yourself against market crashes. Go to bitrefill.com, click Create Account, and enter the referral code DCN, or follow the link in the description. Well, hey everyone, happy Friday. I don't know if you guys saw my recap video update video from yesterday, but basically, I live in a current time of untenable internet, so I'm pausing live shows for the moment. Although, to be optimistic, right outside my window, there were technicians installing fiber optic cables. So hopefully I get some really good internet soon and all this stuff is behind us. Fingers crossed. But anyway, as I had promised, of course, I'm going to keep on doing Friday news shows. The only thing is, if I try to do them with guests and things and try to coordinate the internet, the internet goes down and then it just ends up terrible for everyone. So that's a little sad. So in the meantime, I'm just going to do it myself. And, the star of the show is the same. Just kidding. I love you guys. But yeah, let's just get into some of these things. So I did notice this one headline right over here that was, I guess, kind of to be expected, right? So, crypto mixers' popularity booms as illicit addresses push volumes to all-time high, according to a Chainalysis report. So basically, although on-chain activities have slowed down during crypto winter, there's been a whole lot more mixing and CoinJoin kind of stuff like that going on the blockchain, the various top blockchains. For example, Bitcoin. Now, in a report by analytics firm Chainalysis, data shows that the 30-day moving average of the total daily value received by crypto mixers reached a new all-time high of 51.8 million in April 2022. It's double the incoming volume received the same time in 2021. And according to the firm, almost 10% of all the funds coming from illicit addresses are sent exclusively to crypto mixers. Now, obviously, this begs the question, what is an illicit address? What is an illicit purpose? Who defines what as what? So the thing is, I think personally, we are entering a new age of crypto privacy as far as emphasis on the functionality, right? Because in the past, the very early days, people thought that cryptos like Bitcoin were just exclusively anonymous, just because, no one knows who's behind the address. And I remember when everyone just had one address, and everyone just sent and received it. It's crazy to think today that people used to do that. And it's crazy to think that people just used, as far as I know, mostly like unmixed Bitcoin on the Silk Road. And they're like, I get to do anonymous transactions this way. And that's just before anyone knew anything. Now it's trivial to trace crypto transactions that do not implement something that's a little bit more advanced in order to obfuscate the path. At the very minimum, like a CoinJoin. Although even then, there's a lot of ways you can kind of like look around and trace amount goes in. You can't really see where it goes, but then the same amount pops out in something that you can correlate off-chain data with, and you can kind of figure that out. So I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to the reality that they need extended privacy for non-illicit activities. It's kind of funny how Chainalysis is assuming illicit things. I'm sure there are a lot of things like hacks and thefts and things like that, or people using it for stuff that is not legal, which I don't think is the same as illicit, but that's a different that's a different discussion altogether. Obviously, there's a lot of actually that, but then there's also probably a lot of stuff where people are just they just want privacy because they never know what will be considered one day, or they just don't want criminals, actual illicit people, to find out what they're doing with their money and be able to track them and be able to attack them, hold them for ransom, steal all their money, a bunch of awful things. So I think that this push for increased anonymity in crypto is going to be going up over time. And I think we kind of saw the beginning of that with the, what do I call the 2021, 2020 Monero boom, where Monero's been really gaining a lot of traction in terms of transaction volume and, of course, market price and recognition, because people started using crypto like Bitcoin to finance things like protests and trucker convoys and things like that. And then they started getting traced. And then people started to realize, oh, for the first time, I actually look into this stuff. I realize this isn't very private. What's the top privacy coin? What's the top project that people consider to have some sort of anonymity or anti-tracing abilities? Oh, let's just go right to Monero. And I mean, this might be controversial to some of you, but I believe that the next step beyond that is people really leading heavily into things like that, like, for example, coin mixing or Monero, and then those getting cracked in some kind of a way, and then people being like, oh, I didn't do my research, and then going to something more robust, something, with proper encryption, stuff like, Zcash might be a good example, although I'm sure that the field will be flourishing at that point. And so, yeah, this whole crypto mixer boom thing going on right now, I believe it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. Well, speaking of illicit things or that kind of thing, this is good. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a bill into law prohibiting digital finance assets as payments more than a month after it was introduced into the country's lower chamber in parliament. In a Thursday update, the Russian State Duma noted that Putin signed a bill suspending certain parts of an existing federal law on banks and banking activities, effectively making it illegal for people to use cryptocurrencies to pay for goods and services. What do you make of that, huh? Well, it's kind of funny because people have been talking for a while about crypto being some kind of a way to evade, sanctions and things like that, of a way to avoid when centralized entities, particularly governments, particularly the bigger governments such as the US and its allies, from blocking a country being able to use financial services. And that's happened plenty in Russia lately over the war, the invasion of Ukraine, et cetera, et cetera. And so you'd think that when you're unable to use the traditional financial world, you'd think that at that point you start to investigate alternatives that could kind of work for you. You think that, okay, maybe it's about time to start using crypto, Russia. However, if you look underneath the surface just a little bit, you kind of get to see that, okay, governments love power, and the bigger and more totalitarian the government, the more they love power. So you have someone like Vladimir Putin, who's not known for his aggressive human rights record, let's just put it that way, or embracing of full representative democracy. You have someone like that who does not appreciate someone else having control inside the borders. I'm not talking about the outside stuff. Inside his own borders, having the ability to freely transact without his ability to say what can and can't be done. So I think we're going to kind of see this dictatorships in places like that have been sort of panned by the West, by the US and the West. It's a natural fit for them to just switch to using a currency that can't be censored, as well as just kind of skip the line instead of having their own crappy fiat that they print endlessly and just collapses way before something like the dollar. Pick something that's more robust and works better. The whole El Salvador kind of way. The thing is, when you do that, you inherently get rid of some freedom, right? You inherently get more freedom, I should say. And in doing so, the control you have over the country kind of goes away. So like if people can trade with whatever they want, then if you print your currency, you hyperinflate your nation's currency to pay for other things, it doesn't really work because you aren't really stealing value from the people if the people don't use the currency to begin with. So I do think that you will have dictatorships and things like that, even though it's in their best interest on a what do they call it? Like a foreign affairs kind of perspective. On a domestic perspective, it's not in their best interest as governments. But as for the people, of course, it's in their best interest to be able to transact with the best money in the world, the best transaction capacity in the world, the best technology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so move on to this. Let me give a sip of coffee real quick. Without coffee, I'd not be able to do this. So, Ethereum is nearing the merger phase of its crucial transition from a proof of work mining consensus to proof of stake. Ethereum devs offered a perpetual merger date during conference call on Thursday, basically proposing a September 19th as a target date for the merger. So, I don't really need to dwell too much on this, but Ethereum's been doing this long-awaited migration from proof of work to proof of stake, which will be kind of interesting as it takes probably at that point, maybe even the majority of crypto's market share out of mining, and then kind of goes straight to proof of stake. And it's kind of seen as the biggest, experiment in, let's just see how this kind of thing works. And of course, you have other projects such as like Zcash discussing going to proof of stake, and it seems to be kind of the trendy thing to do in the crypto world. And so, well, first off, obviously this is bullish for Ethereum in terms of being able to achieve its development goals and move forward in the way it is. I personally, I don't know how I feel entirely about the proof of work versus proof of stake debate thing, but it is good that one of the big chains, Bitcoin's going to stick with one, the other is going to the other. We get to kind of see the effects of both long term. But of course, development delivery is a big thing. And being able to, after this, merge idea has been on the table for many, many years, actually getting closer to it is kind of big thing. Unfortunately, I think that people are going to kind of wrap up too many expectations of instant scaling and fee relief with the merge. And I don't think that's going to happen for a while more still, if ever. I guess we'll see. But yeah, until then, Ethereum remains like the big dog in the space, probably, that unfortunately not a lot of the little guy can use, at least not frequently, at least not without shelling out a ton of money and fees. And that kind of, the proof of work versus proof of stake thing kind of segues into this point here of Bitcoin mining costs reach a 10-month low as miners use more efficient rigs. It now costs less to mine a single Bitcoin, which could help to reverse the falling profitability trends while lowering power demands on the network. So on Wednesday, strategists told JP Morgan, led by Nicholas, I'm not going to say that name, sorry, told investors that Bitcoin production costs have fallen to around 1,300 from 2,400 at the beginning of June. Anyway, all that stuff to basically say, people are going to be more energy efficient. And this is kind of an interesting thing with proof of work, because constantly people are looking to basically, hash rates are consistently going to increase on any chain that actually has success long term. People are going to continue pushing higher and higher and higher to get a bigger piece of that little pie. And it's just a constant struggle. And of course, bigger hash rates traditionally would mean more energy expenditure, and that's why all the environmentalists are freaking out over this kind of stuff. The difference is energy costs money, and if you're trying to get more hash rate for more money, but you end up spending, you spend more on the actual energy than you do on you actually gain in extra profits as a mining company. That just doesn't make sense. And so right now, in my opinion, the race is to, let's just say, extract more from the energy to become more energy efficient. And over time, energy is a much scarcer resource than, let's just say, hash rate. You can, over time, well, let me actually rethink that. Erase what I just said. I'm just rambling here. But basically over time, people will be finding more and more efficient ways of trying to mine, and there'll be more and more demands on, energy. And it's going to be interesting to see if this like giant mining farm kind of model ends up being what really works out for proof of work cryptos in the long run. I mean, at some point, I kind of think that first off, there's plenty has been written about how mining intersects with the energy grid to make it kind of more efficient and like even things out. And I mean, there's a lot of spare like excess energy that in power plants that's either basically there's no demand to have it shipped to the final destination for whatever the cost would be worth, or they're just excess energy. And so what I think kind of we could probably imagine would happen in the future is, or at least this is in my mind, this could turn out completely different in reality, but I can imagine a world where just about everyone's smart devices of any kind, or just your house, your phone, your computer, your fridge, your everything, can in some way mine. And of course, you don't want to just burn through your electrical bill, but if there's any excess electricity in like downtimes and stuff like that, that just gets used by your devices to kind of do this. And so basically, people and their device infrastructure end up having a vote in these networks, such as Bitcoin, and kind of get some money back for this. And so rather than what I kind of like to see is a world where obviously in a democracy, individual humans vote. But of course, for that you have to KYC. You have to say, who am I, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously in a proof of stake environment, whoever has the money votes. Now you could just have some big whales that control everything, but it's still kind of fair as far as like the most affected by the network's decisions end up having to have the biggest say. But so the struggle to try to find a kind of egalitarian, a democratic in some way, is some sort of a governance model that kind of represents everyone, or as well as possible. Proof of work was kind of that, right? Where you don't have to, you don't have like a node that you can spin up a million different ones and Sybil attack the network and pretend like you're a ton of different people. It's not like you have to KYC, and therefore that's no good either. In order to actually be private and anonymous and just like that, proof of work, like one CPU equals one vote, that whole thing, kind of democratized the whole process extensively for just a little bit until it became obvious that these algorithms can be mined. You can mine these algorithms. You can solve these mathematical problems much, much more efficiently if you build specialized hardware. And then people started building specialized hardware and running mining farms. And then it's like mining farms that do this stuff. And like the average person, like you or me, have almost nothing to do with the security and consensus of Bitcoin. I don't care what the maxis say about user activated software, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. No. The mining power rules supreme. And the thing is, it'd be interesting to see what happens once that kind of like comes full circle. I have it in my mind, maybe it's just a romantic thing, but of people's devices and things like that participating in mining with excess energy and, excess time. Or like, for example, if you're heating your house in the winter, then every heater mines because you generate a ton of heat. You don't actually need cooling to really cool down the machines that much if you're in a very cold environment. And so I wonder if like half the heating stuff comes from mining, for example. And anyway, I just think that would be an interesting kind of way of seeing how that thing would evolve. Who knows if it's actually going to do that, but it is what it is. All right. Well, now on a little bit less of a happy note on the whole Bitcoin thing. Bitcoin is now in its longest ever extreme fear period. 70 days straight of extreme fear shows no end in sight as the Bitcoin price action stays wedged around 20,000. Now, you know me, I'm not really one who cares too much about the market actions going up and down, things like that. But I I think this is an interesting data point where crypto's at its strongest it's ever been. I mean, we had like just about everyone talking about, using or receiving or whatever in this last cycle. We have like some of the biggest sports in the world, and like, for example, the Super Bowl doing Ethereum NFTs for every ticket that they had, and of course the UFC being sponsored by Crypto.com and giving away crypto bonuses based on what fans like. We're getting to the big leagues, right? However, I personally believe that Bitcoin in particular got on this on a undeserved wave of hype. I don't mean doesn't deserve to have a lot of value, but compared to the actual adoption of the coin, I think that there's a lot of people who really pumped it this last time, and a lot of talk of it's going to 100K or 178 easy and stuff like that. Then it fell far short of that, as a lot of like the speculative energy went into other things like NFTs. But then you have a product that people promoted largely for number go up when number didn't go that far up. And then we have a well-deserved correction right now. And it wasn't just, market goes up, it's a bear market, it goes down, whatever. I think we actually have like a little bit of a reckoning going on right now. And this is just this is just a feeling, by the way. Like, I could just be wrong, and by, next 4 years, hyper Bitcoinization, everyone this, it could just be something like that. But I'm getting these feelings of the space is doing quite well, but the biggest asset out there, the daddy of all of them, Bitcoin, is kind of failing to meet some of these expectations. And I think that it's not just a market downturn. I think there's something else where people are like, oh, okay, now that the early majority is starting to look into it, we're starting to see some issues now that it's not just Bitcoin. It's like, well, Bitcoin and millions of other coins. Now the actual, like, why does this deserve to be number one kind of prospect is starting to be scrutinized a little bit more. And so I think that this, well, let me just say, I think that that might have been the last cycle where Bitcoin is still the most relevant crypto asset. I think that we might, this next time around, again, of course, things could change, right? I think that something like, let's just say you hit Bitcoin with like a block size increase, and there's some significant improvements to bootstrapping the Lightning Network and stuff like that. And there's like a bunch of things like that start to happen, and you start to be able to actually interface with native DeFi and smart contract capabilities and all this other stuff. If you start to be able to do some of that on Bitcoin, I think that we could have a different outcome. But the way it's going, we're probably going to see either another asset like Ethereum overtake Bitcoin's market cap in the next run up, I guess, in the next bull and then bear market, I guess, next few years. Or at least, even if it doesn't, then the percentage falls. I mean, what is it, around like 42% dominance right now? The market dominance percentage starts to fall to where it might still be the biggest asset out there, the biggest crypto asset, but it's not like relevant as the space. It's not like, well, there's Bitcoin, there's the other things. It's just the space, and this one's the bigger of them, but it's just kind of one of very, very many at that point. That's just kind of my feeling. And this one finally is something that's kind of interesting to me. 34% of gamers want to use crypto in the metaverse despite the backlash. According to Globant, 34% of gamers are interested in conducting crypto transactions in the metaverse, while 16% have purchased NFTs in the past. Wait for the generational shift. Online native people will embrace crypto like nothing else. And I'm kind of like, I think that the last holdouts of using crypto are going to just be older generations that just haven't, just can't wrap their head around doing something that's not like government money kind of thing. But I mean, the fact that 34% of gamers want to use crypto, I mean, how many people are gamers? That's a giant, probably it's increasingly, I think, becoming a kind of like the younger generations are probably, it's almost everyone probably. And so 34% is a significant chunk of the world. Like if 34% of the world lived on crypto like I do, wow, That would be something. That would make my life so much easier too. But like 34% is like enough. Like, I mean, obviously I'd want 100%, but like that is a huge victory. And so I think that we have this 34% number for gamers might translate to 10 to 20% of the whole population in the next cycle that is starting to use or heavily demands to use crypto. And I mean, in your pick your first world country, what percentage of the average person, what percentage of the population uses digital wallets like Apple Pay or Google Pay or something like that? It's not 100%. I don't even think it's 50%. I think it's lower, like 20, 30, who knows? I'd have to actually look up the stats on that, but I bet it's low. And so I bet for every 10 people who use like Apple Pay or something like that in the next few years, it'll end up being like one person using crypto. So not 10% of everyone in the world or everyone in developed countries or whatever you want to call it will be like living entirely off this stuff. But it'll be enough people to where you will have a demand where you will maybe get some stories like 3, 4, 8% of revenue comes from crypto paying customers and stuff like that. And so I think that we're going to start to hit the early majority very soon. Yeah. But anyway, that wraps up this little, roundup at the end of the week. Hope you guys had a good time with this. We'll be back next week. And as soon as we get this internet kicked in, back to live shows. But in the meantime, I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. I'm still going to give you guys the news breakdown. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. I will read them. And yeah, how about this? Next recap. Any comments I get, or not any, every comment I get, how about if it's not like a weird spammy one, I'm going to do a little read it. I'm going to read it out ahead of time before the show. And so eventually you're going to have to pay for this stuff. But right now, let me just test doing a little freebie thing. All right. See you guys later. Bye-bye.